Jason Carter was in a hurry. It had been one of those days, running late for work, his coffee spilling all over his car seat, and an inbox full of emails that he had no patience for. The winter air was crisp in downtown Chicago, and the streets were packed with holiday shoppers. He was weaving his way through traffic when he noticed an elderly woman standing beside her car, hazard lights blinking. She was struggling with a flat tire, her frail hands gripping a lug wrench that was too big for her to handle. People walked past, their eyes glued to their phones, avoiding eye contact. Jason hesitated. He was late, and stopping now would mean another headache. But something about her, the way she looked around helplessly, the way she braced against the cold, made him pull over. "Ma'am, do you need help?" he asked, stepping out of his car. The woman turned, relief washing over her face. "Oh, dear, yes. I was just trying to visit my late husband's grave, but this tire, it just won't budge." Jason knelt by the car, rolling up his sleeves. "I got it," he said, loosening the bolts and swapping out the tire with her spare. It took only a few minutes, but he could feel her watching him closely, as if she was trying to place him. "You remind me of someone," she said suddenly. "You have the same kindness in your eyes." Jason smiled politely, assuming she was just making small talk. "All done," he said, wiping his hands on his jeans. "You're good to go." The woman hesitated. "I know this is a strange request, but, would you join me for coffee? Just for a few minutes?" He glanced at his watch. He was already late, what was a little longer? Something in her expression tugged at him, a deep loneliness hidden behind her smile. "Sure," he said. They found a small diner nearby, its windows fogged from the warmth inside. Over steaming cups of coffee, the woman introduced herself as Margaret Lawson. "My husband, Robert, passed away last year," she explained. "We were married for 52 years. He was my best friend." "I'm sorry for your loss," Jason said sincerely. She nodded. "You know, I almost didn't stop here today. I haven't had the strength to visit his grave in months. But something told me to come." She took a deep breath. "And then I saw you." Jason frowned. "Me?" Margaret pulled an old, worn photograph from her purse and slid it across the table. Jason picked it up, and his heart nearly stopped. It was a picture of a young man in a military uniform, his eyes bright, his smile familiar. It took him a moment to realize why, he was staring at the face of his own grandfather. "That's my grandfather," Jason whispered. "But how?" Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "Your grandfather, William Carter, was my first love." Jason's breath caught. He had grown up hearing stories about his grandfather's service in the Korean War, how he had been a brave soldier and a kind man. But never had he heard about Margaret. "He and I were engaged before he went off to war," Margaret continued. "We wrote letters every week. But then, the letters stopped. I never knew what happened to him until I heard he had married someone else. My heart broke, but I always hoped he had found happiness." She smiled softly. "And now, here you are. His grandson." Jason sat back, overwhelmed. "I had no idea." Margaret reached across the table and took his hand. "Fate has a funny way of bringing people together, Jason. Maybe your kindness today was always meant to bring us full circle." Jason felt a lump in his throat. He had stopped to help a stranger, but instead, he had found a missing piece of his own history. As they finished their coffee, Jason made a decision. "Margaret, would you like me to take you to visit your husband's grave? You shouldn't have to go alone." Her eyes glistened. "I would love that." That day, Jason not only helped an elderly woman with a flat tire, he found a connection to his past and gained a new friend. And as he walked with Margaret through the quiet cemetery, he realized something: kindness always has a way of coming back around, often in ways we never expect.